Ladies and gentlemen, this is the BU Hockey Show.
Makes a one-timer, down low for Cockrell, in front, Curry scores!
BU moving it well, and a shot and a goal!
Mueller digs, saved by Schroeder!
Got an opportunity for a shot, and she scores!
Welcome into episode 19 of the BU Hockey Show. We got another special edition for you. I'm Patrick Donnelly. With me is Brady Gardner. How are we today, Brady?
I'm doing great, Patrick. Excited for this one.
I'm excited as well because we're also joined by Hockey East Commissioner Steve Metcalf. How's it going today, Steve? Thank you for joining us.
Yeah, great to see you guys, and happy to talk some hockey with you.
Yeah, this is exciting, Patrick. You know, we had Brian Smith, the Associate Commissioner. The only way you can one-up that one is to go to the Commissioner himself. And obviously, there are a lot of questions out there right now. So I'm looking forward to, trying to get a few answers, inform the people. And it's just interesting, obviously. So should be good.
Yeah, we're moving on up in the world in the Hockey East food chain. But yeah, very excited to be joined by Steve and hopefully get some questions answered today.
Sure. I think maybe we can start with the scheduling because obviously that's been a big talking point this year, going to week by week scheduling and working it out kind of as you go. We talked to Brian about his role and kind of coming up with the ideas a week in advance and then passing it by, other like the schools themselves, the office, all that. What's your role been in that weekly schedule planning?
Well, first off, I think I guess I'm curious if you agree that week by week is the way to go, but we felt very strongly that it was the best model for us. We could use current information on teams' availability, which was obviously ever changing, and then make the maximum number of games for everyone that wanted to play. And I think we were generally very successful at doing that. I think there were only a couple of weekends when we had a team that was healthy that didn't play. And so trying to get everyone games, I think that model, although some of the other commissioners were like, oh my goodness, I can't believe you're doing that. But they wouldn't be able to do it in their conference because of their geography, and we could. I think, Brian went through a lot of the details of this, but just maybe a quick recap is usually Brian and I are together on a Thursday in the office. Today, we start scratching out. He has some ideas. I have some ideas. We kind of put it together. We take a look and see how we like it. Then we go into the weekend's games. Sometimes the results of that weekend might play into some tweaks. And then obviously the big thing is schools availability. And so it could be a COVID situation, or it could be their availability to host games on certain days, on their campus due to, basketball, or in this case, like football now, or lacrosse or soccer or anything else that might be going on. And then I guess I'm having a lot of communication over the weekend with ADs and administrators about some of the details. We go back and look at it again on Sunday night, maybe a little more intensely, because then the games are all over for the weekend. And people are then really interested in kind of where we are and what we're thinking about. So we're teasing out some of the information to some of the schools on Monday morning. We send it out to the schools. And then, as you know, Tuesday afternoon, it gets publicly released after we've finalized all the details, which are usually time and television. And then that's all packaged together for Tuesday at 3:00, which it's amazing. I'm sure you guys are attuned to Tuesday at 3. This is coming out, but it's amazing how many other people are. And, I think it's made for like a, kind of a fun Tuesday afternoon event. So I guess that's, maybe I'm a little biased, but I think it's a fun event on Tuesday. And quite frankly, the schools and the coaches, they're finding out on Monday, but generally everyone's been cool with that approach. Finding out who they're going to play, less than a week before they play them, and it's given us the chance, like I said, to play the most games.
Yeah, I'm sure you wouldn't want to do this every year, but considering you've had
I wouldn't want to do it any more years. I want to do it any more years.
It's worked out, though. I think you found a way to do it pretty much as well as it could have been done. So I agree with that thought process. And this week especially, it feels like, this one was kind of the grand finale of it all, where you have every team in action. Most of them just one game. Some of them, we had BU before it got canceled, obviously, scheduled to play against UNH and then UMass Lowell. And so this is something you hadn't done yet this season, going for this one game approach, getting everybody games.
Yep.
Just talk about kind of the thought process that went into this final week of games.
Well, so on every week of games, you've got a million variables. Obviously, I've touched on some of them. COVID and team availability, but also facility availability. Trying to make new matchups for teams as much as possible. So if we're doing a 5 series on the men's side, and I guess say we're doing 4 or 5 on the women's side, as many new matchups as we could possibly do when it's not going to be all new. And then trying to be a little strategic about some of the opponents. Often there's like a mutually beneficial situation that 2 teams playing each other. And then in some cases, you've got some rivalry games like, BUBC, for example. We took a couple cracks at that before we finally got it done. But that was, games that we thought were important to play. And then, so this weekend, we had a unique situation where we had all 11 men's teams on the final weekend available. So we said, okay, we can't sit anyone this weekend. We've got to give everyone at least one. Keep in mind, there are 6 teams that are going to play the following Wednesday. So they wouldn't necessarily be interested in 2 before going into that. We've got a few teams, your BU Terriers amongst them, that are lighter on the total game. So I think good idea to get them still 2-game weekends whenever possible, although that went awry. And, still trying to find some new matchups on the last weekend, and maybe in a couple of cases, give teams an opportunity to jump up, or give teams an opportunity to settle once and for all, like who might be better amongst these 2 teams this weekend if they'd split a series, give them a 3rd game and try and settle it. And then also overlaying all of that, the facility and schools availability to host, which I can tell you is getting much, much more difficult because soccer, field hockey, volleyball, lacrosse, and even football games. And so UNH has a football game tomorrow night, so they couldn't host a hockey game on Friday, March 5th because of a football game, if you can believe it. So, but those are, real world 2021 academic year athletic scheduling issues that we never had to face before. So, when we got done with all of that, we came up with a schedule which we thought was pretty good. And, we lost 1 game. Hopefully we don't lose any more, but that's where we are.
Mm-hmm. Cool. Patrick, you have anything?
I guess just if we want to move on to the kind of the talk of the town, I guess, all over Twitter and everything.
Sure.
Just Happy, what was the thought process there? How did you guys come up with that system?
Well, we wanted to come up with something that would make people talk about us, and I think we've done that. So we thought, as I'm sure you guys would agree, that there was a lot of imperfections in doing your standings and seedings by points. That's obviously has a big flaw. Winning percentage, also flawed. Percentage of points earned, also flawed, because of the disparity in number of games and the strength of schedule. And with both of those, teams not controlling who they played, we were controlling that. And so in some of the leagues, the disparity amongst games played was not as great as Hockey East. But quite frankly, they did have some of the same challenges that we do, because they were playing the same opponents multiple times, losing games that you might want to have some equity in the schedule. I'm just thinking of some examples in some of the leagues where a team in the middle might be playing the top team over and over again just because of circumstances. So we thought there was a way to put in something that would help smooth out some of those rough edges, if you will, with how to do this. So we went to something that I'm quite familiar with on my time with the NCAA, like basically stealing from the NCAA playbook, the NCAA committee, has, a website that they use that only they have access to, but obviously I was familiar with it. And so we could basically take some of the components of that and customize it for Hockey East, and use some of the ingredients that hockey coaches were familiar with and some of the ADs were familiar with, and then give us a better way to seed our teams this year in such an uneven year. But it would also make every single game count. So every game that got played would count, and it could have an impact on, if, BU was playing UNH today, and UNH had beaten so-and-so had beaten so-and-so, and the result of UMass and Northeastern would have an impact on this and that. Every game was worth something and factored into the equation, which I thought was a real benefit. So, obviously many people, and I'm sure I include both of you, are quite interested in like what the secret sauce is. But, obviously to date, we haven't felt the need to share it. I guess it's made for good conversation. So here we are talking about it. So that keeps us talking about it. But also, I think, to be fair, if we were kind of pulling back the curtain on that, we'd be pulling back the curtain on things that, others wouldn't want us to pull back the curtain on. And quite frankly, I don't think is necessary to. So, right now we've left it in the, the formula for Coca-Cola is in a big safe down in Atlanta. So we put our formula right next to the Coca-Cola formula, and it's in the safe down in Atlanta. So it's safe.
It's true, and if it is kind of derived from the same idea as the NCAA, then I can see how it might be difficult to, release your formula and not give up a little bit of theirs, right? So that's probably where it gets tricky. I guess
because we had someone help us with it. I'm not that good at math, and the person that helped us work on it, wouldn't be interested in us sharing his work. So okay, we can honor that.
Right. So maybe, it can't be possible to share like the exact, formula in terms of number values for, any given win. And maybe it's not even that simple, right? But just trying to understand kind of the components that go into it. So I think, like just a, made up scenario, let's say BU beats UMass Lowell this Saturday, right? BU probably gains some points because they won, but also BU could gain points because their strength of schedule improved with other games that happened. BU could gain points for having won on the road. What else is there? Is there any other, bonus elements that can add things in?
Well, I guess at the heart of it is, comparing your result against opponent against that opponent's complete body of work, and that body of work is constantly changing based on all the games getting played in the league. And so it's not done in a vacuum. There is a factor in there for road and home, and which we thought was also important to consider this year, because again, people didn't control how many home or away games they played, and we hope that for a lot of schools that might be about 50-50, but it's turned out not to be the case because of a variety of circumstances that sometimes are beyond everyone's control. And then obviously we've got the Maine situation, and they played every game on the road, and I think having a road win factor is a good idea, but it's even a better idea when you've got one team at such a massive disadvantage this year.
And I guess we got a little bit of a case study here.
Okay.
So BU and UMass, they're separated by decimal points, but Brady is doing God's work, kind of figuring all of this out and feeding me information. But BU has the better points percentage, similar strength of schedule, higher or more away games. Is there anything specific we're missing that is available to be shared that goes into that?
Short answer is no. I mean, there's a lot of math behind it, but obviously, it's I guess it's math that's familiar to those on the inside of college hockey that have been involved in the NCAA selections for years and years. But even if I wanted to, I don't think I could really give you, as deep a presentation on all the math behind it. I'm actually looking over here on my other screen. I'm looking at if I could turn my computer around, Brady, you would die. Because over here is like the all the inside stuff and all the the details of it. Just because I knew you'd have questions about it, so I pulled it up just to look at it. But strength of schedule is something that you noted, and we try and be sensitive to that when we're doing the weekly schedules. And quite frankly, we're also, you get to the point at this point in the year when you're thinking about the NCAA tournament, and obviously we'd like to get as many teams in as possible. So, a little bit, start to think about positioning for some of our teams for that.
Right. And, one of the other popular talking points, and this is kind of the last thing about the formula, is, does playing more games help? Because we see a team like UVM has only played a dozen, and then other teams, like the UMass, Providence, whoever else that have played about 20, does it give them an advantage to have played more games?
I don't think it gives them an advantage to play more games. And I guess what we were hoping to do here is take out any advantage, disadvantage between playing more or less games. But I think when you play more games, like, you're always going to have opportunities to improve your situation. So, that's the way I look at it. I think sometimes people might look at it, or this is like a tough weekend. We got two tough opponents, or we're playing two games and someone else is playing one. Well, you've got opportunities to improve your situation. Like, if you look at things like the glass might be half full, well, go take advantage of those opportunities. If you look at it half empty and you think, oh, we're going to lose these games, well, you might. But, I think opportunities for teams to go do something in a game, I think everyone wants to play more games. I mean, every single team in our league, even the teams that played less games, they wished they'd been able to play more games. The players want to play games. And that's been a consistent message that we've heard from everyone. So, we've tried to give people games. And as you know, we've done a number of midweek games when we can. And, generally, I think teams have liked doing them. Sometimes it makes for a busy week. But, again, it goes back to, if you went into any locker room and said to the players, you want to play more games or less games, they're all going to say play more games.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So, and you've said your state on the on releasing the formula, which seems like a pretty definitive no. But in a world where right now we have BU and BC coming down to or actually it's BU and UMass now. It was BU BC kind of coming down to the wire in the standings. And it's important, right? It could determine whether or not the championship's played at Kelly Rink or played, in Mullins Center, right? Those are big things there. So if it does end up being decided by just decimal points, do you see, maybe there'll be pressure, or you'll feel the need to have to release the formula at some point, or at least some consideration of it?
I don't think so, but I don't know. I don't think so, but I think everyone, the people that are closest to this, obviously the ADs and to some degree the coaches, I think they're generally comfortable with what we're doing, and the people that know more about this, certainly within the AD group, thought this was much better than any other idea. So, we're comfortable with what we're doing.
It is what it is. Trust the math, right?
Yeah. I mean, look, these games, like, people, when you look at these top teams, like, they've had some success against each other. It should be close. And then you've got a couple more games for everyone. Maybe that kind of sorts it out a little bit, and then you go into the playoffs and you have another crack at it. But, am I worried or concerned that some of these are close? No, because I think those teams are close. I could make a good argument for, any one of those top teams if you wanted me to, or, or not because of their resume. And, they've all got some quality wins. So they should all be in the mix at the top of the standings.
And just looking at another kind of big talking point that's kind of gone on Twitter a lot, especially in the last week or so, the decision not to award regular season champions. Could you go through what went into that decision?
Well, so I guess I could answer this very, very quickly, I think. I think there's some on Twitter that think, that we in the Hockey East office just dreamt that up one day and decided they were not going to do it. But of course we wouldn't do that. Would it surprise you that the coaches didn't win an award a regular season and the ADs didn't win an award a regular season? So we didn't award one. It's really as simple as that. It's not Hockey East not wanting to do something. We move as the membership wants us to move. And maybe that's surprising to folks that, there were a number of coaches and ADs that thought this, because of the unevenness of this season, that that was something that just didn't make sense to do this year. So we didn't. And, obviously plenty of people have taken shots at us for it or thought that, Brian and Kate and I just one day decided we're not going to do it. Well, no, that's not true at all. We would move as the membership wanted us to move. And I don't think anyone second guessed that decision within the schools. Although certainly on Twitter, people have second guessed it.
It's a dangerous place sometimes for
that's right.
For you guys in the Hockey East office. It's scary out there.
That's right. But we know what went into the decision, and so we're comfortable with it.
Mm-hmm. So, now you're beyond the regular season for the women, obviously. You just had the semifinals yesterday. Men, finishing up their regular season. But with the women's playoffs being kind of ahead of the men's, do you feel like you've, maybe learned anything through how the women's playoffs have gone that you might put towards planning the men's playoffs?
Nothing that immediately comes to mind, but the women's playoffs, I'm sure you've paid attention to some of the games. Like the games last night were tremendous. Two unbelievable games, very close, both of them. And playoff hockey is it's the best. It's the best kind of hockey. And I think the women's playoffs never disappoints. The games are always close. And that's absolutely what happened last night. To some degree, these playoffs and this format, it's a little bit of to some degree, like an extension of the regular season, how we're doing it. We're not going to one site like we normally would do it. But we all felt this was the way that we could be most successful with our playoffs. And so far, so good, knock on wood. That's been the case. And so, we're hoping that everyone will be available and, we can play all the games that the playoffs schedule, lays out for us. But, it's certainly a milestone when you get to the end of the regular season. So we got to the end of the women's regular season, men's obviously this weekend, and then another milestone when you complete the playoffs. And on the women's side, we've played 5, 6, 7 games, and we have one more to play. So knock on wood, we're one game away from completing our women's season.
And kind of just going back to something you mentioned earlier in the show, that you want to return to a normal schedule. You don't want to do it week by week now. Is it possible that something else sticks around, whether that's Heppy? Can you see that moving on to future seasons, or go back to the normal system?
Yeah, we'll probably go back to the normal system, but I'm not sure. That's a good question, Patrick, because as I'm sure you both know, we have an unbalanced schedule on the men's side where they play 24 games. So they played 4 extra games against, so 4 teams they play 3 times and everyone else twice. And so, because of that, perhaps we think about, how we might use something because of that unbalance that we have. But it's certainly not top of mind to carry it forward. We'd like to get everything back to normal as much as possible, and we often dream about just doing a schedule for the entire year and it not changing. That sounds really delightful compared to what we've been doing this year.
Yeah, and you mentioned, this year, obviously, and it's been talked about plenty that this is your first as commissioner, right? Thrown into the fire a little bit. So, we didn't really need to go way into that because plenty of people have talked about it, obviously. But, now that you're through basically, a season in charge, a weird one, of course, just how do you feel like it's all gone from your perspective?
Well, I think it's gone, I think we've been pretty successful. So, we've played a bunch of games, and I think that's a barometer of your success, both on the men's and women's side. On the women's side, we played far more games than any other league in the country, and on the men's side, we're probably right in the ballpark with everyone else. Surprisingly close, actually, between some of the other conferences in Hockey East, how many games we've played. So I think that's a success. I've said to many people, like, a couple things about this year. One is, I enjoy the work, and I enjoy the people at the schools. That most of them I've known a long time. I think we've got a great staff here. So, when you enjoy the work and the people you're doing it with, that's, makes it better. It makes it easier. But certainly this year has been super challenging, sometimes stressful, ever changing. And, we're all dealing with, stuff that we never had to deal with before. But now, you want to get better at problem solving. This is how you do it. You solve all these problems, and then you get better at it. And I think this is a year that, everyone at the schools and, everyone here at Hockey East office, we've improved our problem solving skills this year.
Well, we're right up against how long we had you for.
And that's all I had anyway, so this works out.
Yeah, this is all I had as well. Again, thank you for parking some time with us.
Mm-hmm.
I'm sure it's very informative for the listeners.
Yes, I hope it was.
Same for me. And when we stop the recording, you can just turn the camera around so I can see the formula, please. That'd be great.
Look, it's great. It was great talking with you guys. Look, I appreciate your interest in college hockey and Hockey East. I think it's great that we've, the two of you follow so closely and pay attention, and sometimes just amplify, the stuff we're talking about. And you keep happy in the news. So we appreciate you doing that. So keep talking about that. We did talk about like trademarking, and we'd like sell it to the other hockey conferences, but it was so late in the season. They were all, I think, befuddled by what we had done and how we had done it so quickly. But we had been working on it for a while before we unveiled it. But anyway, yeah, great to see you guys. Great talking to you, and enjoy being with you.
That was Steve Metcalf, Hockey East commissioner. Thank you again to him for parking about a half hour of his time this morning. But plenty to unpack there, Brady.
Yeah, it's a lot, I don't think it's as much as some people would have wanted, right? We wanted him to come out and just open the treasure chest and here's the Heppy, everybody.
Turn his computer screen over to the Heppy.
I can't believe he said that. What a tease. But it's true. I mean, if there are implications beyond Hockey East with releasing that formula, how are you going to blame Hockey East, right? And so I think it's a good escape for the conference, obviously, but it's a equally good reason, and so you hope that it doesn't come down to the wire and, some people think this, Hockey East thinks this, and they just don't match, right? It feels like that's inevitable. But I think their reasoning seems solid. And, I'm excited to see how it all ends up. He's not totally broken down, which is impressive from a new commissioner in this season, right? He's here to do a podcast at 9:30 in the morning on a Thursday after the women's semifinals last night. I think, that was my first conversation with him, really. It seems like they got the right guy in charge to take over for the legendary Joe Britannia. So, I think
excited to see what he can do during a normal year. Or what things look like normally,
And that was another nice thing too, because, there's the conversation of like, oh, well, maybe this changes things. Maybe they go to the Heppy every year. And I think there would be some controversy to come with that. So it was nice to see him be a little hesitant with that one and say, yeah, we'll probably go back to normal. And it is refreshing, obviously, to think about a normal season, the double round robin, just going by points. It's so different than what we've done this year. But it would be nice. So
refreshing to think about not having to stop and start and just plow on through the year.
That's right. The only other big thing was the regular season champions talking point. I guess, and in my opinion, yes, it's annoying right now. and it breaks Northeastern's streak of being regular season champions, whatever, and it's going to look weird on their banners when they have 19, 20, where's 21, 22, 23, like assuming they keep this going. But at the same time, I think, and the athletic directors around the schools, the administration, all that, they probably agree, like the regular season championship only means so much. Like that's not the hill to die on. Obviously it's nice, and it's nice for those schools that win it, but there are bigger things, and chances are if you won the regular season, you're not going to be happy with your season unless you also win the postseason. So, it only means so much, and I think even just in a year, like we probably won't care about it all that much.
Yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, it's a regular season championship. Everyone in the NHL, everyone's like, it's just the President's Trophy. So it's at the end of the day, 10 years from now, no one's going to remember it. Someone might be like, hey, like remember when that crazy thing happened? But other than that, it's not going to be a sticking point in the side of anyone long term, I think. Mm-hmm. And it is good to say or to know that, hey, it wasn't a hockey's thing. It was more of the athletic departments.
That's right.
I think it's good to have that clarity.
The overarching theme is that it's not just the however many people in the Hockey East office just, standing around the water cooler and saying, hey, why don't we just not have a regular season championship? Or why don't we just use this math formula and, it'll make sense. There's a lot of people that are making these decisions from a lot of positions that are more important than ours, more important than, most talking heads out there, and people that just know more, right?
Oh, we're talking heads now?
We're talking heads, Patrick. That's what we are. Yeah. But yeah, good conversation with Steve. I appreciate him coming on the show. I don't know where we go from here. We've talked to the associate commissioner and the commissioner. What's next?
Well, I was thinking, last year we got into some current players in BU hockey teams, or hey, maybe we can, get some alumni.
Alumni? Ooh. I mean, off season, maybe people got some time, come chat on the show. But
yeah.
That's all I got today, Patrick.
That's all I got. So about a half-hour show for you. We had Hockey East Commissioner Steve Metcalf on. Again, thank you to him. Thank you to Brian Smith earlier in the month, or last month now, coming on and kind of explaining things, and Steve coming on and kind of just backing up. Elaborating on Brian, because we got some more information since Brian came on, and Steve came on and elaborated for us, as you said.
Bingo.
But again, thank you so much for listening. You'll find me on Twitter at PatDon12, Brady at Brady V Gardner, WTB Sports at WTB Sports, sites.bu.edu/sports or /WTBU/sports. Excuse me. Just Google WTB Radio. It's all there. BU Lowell this Saturday, and we'll see you next time.